So I have again been reading away, and I have 4 books to wrap up in this video. 3 which are majorly hyped, they are TikTok sweethearts, and 1 which is sort of, I would say, underhyped. And I have some opinions on all of them, so I'm just going to jump in and wrap up these 4 books. The first book that I have to wrap up is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. This is definitely Colleen Hoover's most hyped book. It is all over BookTok, it is all over BookTube. People love Colleen Hoover. So I decided to pick it up, and I don't think I will probably pick up another Colleen Hoover book. Probably ever, I'm going to say, but let's never say never. Things could change. Because there's a sequel to this book and I hate leaving things unfinished, so I might pick up the sequel. But basically, this is an adult romance novel in which we follow our main character Lily, who has managed to persevere through a very difficult childhood with help from an older boy named Atlas. However, when Atlas disappears after he joins the army, Lily decides to move on with her life, and as an adult she moves to Boston, where she meets a very handsome surgeon named Ryle, who has a troubled past of his own. Lily and Ryle then start to fall head over heels in love with each other, but when things start to sour in their relationship, they find themselves stuck in a toxic cycle. I found a lot of this book unsettling. The first thing I thought was really weird was that we are told the story of Lily's childhood and her past through a series of unsent letters to Ellen DeGeneres. And I just found that so strange, because I've never met anyone whose comfort person is Ellen DeGeneres. And now, knowing what we know about the set of the Ellen show and the environment of the Ellen show, it made reading things just a tiny scooch uncomfortable. I found that very strange. I also didn't understand Ryle as a love interest at all. He was jealous and aggressive and mean right from the beginning, even before things started to go wrong in their relationship. And once Atlas comes in the scene, things become even worse. I just did not get him as a love interest at all. I found Lily to be a character that I could not relate with, because every decision that she made is the opposite of a decision that I would have made. The best characters in the whole book were Ryle's sister and her husband, who seemed to be the voice of reason, very little listened to, and they also had a strange dynamic of themselves, which I found very odd. However, I did find the ending of this book relatively satisfying compared to the rest of it, so I did give it 3 out of 5 stars, and I might pick up the sequel when it comes out, but I don't think I'll be picking up any more Colleen Hoover after that. The next novel I have to wrap up is Lore by Alexandra Bracken. This is a young adult novel based on Greek mythology, and the premise of this book is basically that after the war against Zeus, the 9 gods who waged war against him and lost are cast out of Olympus, and every 7 years, for 7 days, those gods are made mortal, and the descendants of the greatest Greek warriors hunt them down, basically to try and kill them and take their powers. Our main character Lore has always dreamed of finding fame and glory during this 7 days called the Agon, until she discovers her entire family murdered, and so she decides to withdraw from this life completely and cast it aside, until a broken and bloodied Athena shows up on her doorstep one day begging for help. I found some elements of this book really interesting, but what I wanted to know more about was the parts that were really skimmed over. Like, I think that had this book been about the first Agon, I would have really enjoyed it, because we would have seen the establishment, we would have understood where these great warriors had come from, and also the training to be a part of the Agon. I found that really interesting, and that was sort of just skipped over. However, I did find Lore to be a really compelling main character. I liked her fire and her drive and her determination to bring pride and honour to her family. So I really enjoyed her as a main character, but in general I feel like I'm just outgrowing this type of book, so I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. The next book I have to wrap up is Defy Me by Tara Maffey. This is the 5th book in the Shatter Me series, which is a YA dystopian series in which we follow our main character Juliet, who has been imprisoned because her touch is dangerous to people, until the re-establishment, the government that is in control of this dystopian world, decides that they can use Juliet to their advantage. I won't speak too much to the plot of this particular novel because it is the 5th book of a 6-book long series, but what I will say is that some of the plot elements that were introduced in the second half of this series would have made more sense had they been included from the very first book instead of being introduced halfway through book 4. And generally I do feel like, again, I am just outgrowing these books. They're just not my cup of tea anymore as I am progressing as a person and as a reader. However, I will be finishing this series because I do have the other books on my shelves and I hate to leave things unfinished. But again, this was a 3 out of 5 star read for me, nothing special. The The final book that I have to wrap up in this video is Julia and the Shark by Karen Millwood Hargrave. This is a children's illustrated novel in which we follow our main character Julia, who is a little girl going to live with her parents on the Shetland Isles for the summer. Her dad has been employed to fix an old lighthouse up there, and her mother is going out in search of the Greenland shark. Julia's mum is her absolute hero. She worships everything she does and hangs on every word that she says. But as Julia's mum becomes more and more obsessed with tracking down the shark, she has less and less time for Julia, leading Julia to venture out on her own into dangerous and unknown territory to try and help Julia's mum. I thought this book was absolutely beautiful. It talks about mental health and family and love in such a gentle and caring way. The writing style was absolutely beautiful and I just adored it. I felt like Julia was a really relatable main character, and I felt like everyone could see a little bit of themselves in her. She's just someone who wants to be wanted, who wants to fit in, who wants to belong, and I feel like there's a little bit of that in every single person on the planet. I just thought this book was beautiful and the illustrations really added to the reading experience for me, so this was a 4.5 out of 5 star read. So those are the 4 books I have to wrap up in today's video. It's not my most successful reading update, to be fair, a couple of unsuccessful reads for me there, but nothing too terrible, nothing below 3 stars, which I feel like is a fine rating. Hopefully moving forward though, I will be enjoying my books even more. If you've read any of these books and you have any thoughts, please let me know in the comments, or let me know what you've been reading recently, because I would absolutely love to know, and I will see you soon.